There is no loyalty in the woke movement. How many times have I said that? Over the last 2 or 3 years, I bet I have repeated that same phrase hundreds, maybe thousands of times. It does not matter if you spend your free time planting new oak trees for purposes of worship. It doesn't matter if you publicly pretend that Leah Thomas is a legendary female athlete. It doesn't matter what your name is. Once the purpose that you are serving has been fulfilled, your woke welfare will expire. It's guaranteed. Over the past 6 months, executives at ESPN, they've been extremely busy. The Passion Room at the worldwide leader in woke, it has been booked solid. Final woke hugs have been given to employees who are facing the harsh reality that their woke welfare is about to expire. The supply of Preparation H, it's been low for months as ESPN does the right thing, ensuring these former employees don't suffer through the woke hangover as they seek employment at another media company that pushes lies and propaganda. I don't understand why anyone would want to work at ESPN at this point. You could not pay me enough money to go on live television and pretend that Leah Thomas is a female athlete, pretend that the NFL is plagued by mythical racism, pretend that the NHL is filled with mythical racism while the NBA is a beacon for diversity. Over the last 5 or 6 years, layoffs have become common at the worldwide leader in woke. Now you gotta remember, this is the network that prides itself on its diversity. But when it comes to cutting off the woke welfare, there ain't nothing diverse about it. Historically, ESPN has targeted a certain demographic when they need to cut payroll. The evil white man. Trey Wingo, Mike Golick, Ivan Maisel, Will Kane, Kenny Mayne. The list goes on and on. Now, to be fair, there were a handful of people belonging to marginalized groups that have also lost their jobs at ESPN over the years. Claire Smith, for example. Claire Smith lost her job a couple of years ago. I've never understood how women are considered marginalized. And yes, I know Claire Smith is a black woman, but deacons at Woke United Methodist, they consider all women to be marginalized when it fits their narrative. Never understood that. How can half the population be considered a minority, marginalized? But anyway, for the most part, when ESPN is forced to lay off employees, they typically target the evil white man. Just last week, they let go of Rob Ninkovich, Neil Everett, and Chris Chelios. What do all those dudes have in common? Colorless dongs. But with ESPN financials being released for the first time later this year, and business for the network dedicated to shit fuckery perceived to be struggling, ESPN has been forced into doing something they never thought they'd have to do. Fire their beloved wanker spankers. Oh, this is so painful! Before I reveal the latest victims of ESPN's poor business decisions, let's go ahead and get into the sponsor for today's video, my friends over at All Strokes Matter. Over the last couple of months, we have discussed the fact that a lot of these mainstream brands have professed their love of the pride. Target, Kohl's, North Face. If you're a normal person, it's getting more and more difficult to buy clothing without supporting brands that don't align with your personal values. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a lady email me asking if I had any shopping suggestions. She was looking for clothes for her husband and wanted a brand that refused to dip their logo in the rainbow. At the time, I didn't have any suggestions, but now I finally do. Let me tell you about my friends at All Strokes Matter. Don't let the name fool you. My friends at All Strokes Matter, the complete opposite of the organization Black Lives Matter. They love and support our military and share the same values that we have. Plus, they've got an amazing line of clothing. This right here is one of my personal favorites. I mean, you guys know how much I love my hoodies and my long sleeve tees. I'm sure most of you remember those parental advisory labels that used to come on CDs back in the 90s and 2000s. They've taken that same design and they've used it for fitted hats. When you spend your hard-earned money with All Strokes Matter, you can rest assured that a portion of the proceeds are going to be used to help our military veterans instead of funding the next gay pride parade. Click the link in the description or the pinned comment below. Save 30% off your first order with All Strokes Matter. All right. I have been seeing reports all week that ESPN was expected to eliminate several high-profile talents this week. Like most corporations, the network, they decided to wait to do this until Friday. Now, you would think, executives at ESPN, they would give these victims the courtesy of a simple heads up, right? If so, you would think wrong. Jeff Van Gundy found out this morning that ESPN was refusing to honor his contract. Now, there are varying reports as to what this means. Some of the shitfucks being fired at ESPN, they still got a lot of time left on their contract. I think the network's going to be forced to pay them out, but some other outlets are reporting that executives at ESPN, they're going to allow these people to work for other networks while their contract expires. Now, other media outlets are reporting that they'll have to work that out with the legal department at ESPN. Translation? Your ass is off television. Many people were surprised that Jeff Van Gundy was fired by ESPN. Why? I don't understand why this was so shocking. I mean, have we been following the same network these last few years? ESPN has essentially become BET. Watch their NBA pre- and post-game shows. Take a shot every time you see someone lacking melanin. This game would sober up an alcoholic because the bottle would remain full. Jeff Van Gundy, he checked the boxes that ESPN's looking for when laying off talent. Older, check. White, check. Male who refuses to believe he can get pregnant, check. 3 strikes for Jeff Van Gundy. Your ass is out. Now, in all fairness, I really don't blame ESPN for firing Jeff Van Gundy. I know a lot of people like him, and look, I don't have anything against Jeff Van Gundy personally. His brother Stanley, completely different story. Stanley Van Gundy, grade A shitfuck. But Jeff Van Gundy, I don't know, he seems alright. He's just not my preference when calling NBA games. He's too whiny for me. But anyway, it's also being reported that Max Kellerman could see his woke welfare expire. Those who have been following this channel should not be surprised by this news because I told you this was going to happen 2 weeks ago. Max Kellerman is a prime example of there being no loyalty in the woke movement. Over the years, this dude's done everything, I mean everything, that ESPN asked of him. Max, we need you to apologize publicly for your white privilege. Oh, yes, sir, I am definitely privileged because I lack melanin. Max, Stephen A is tired of tapping your bongo. We are removing you from Woke Take and burying your career. We are putting you on ESPN radio, which no one listens to, and we are giving you a filler show in the afternoons. We are going to market and promote neither of these shows. Oh, thank you, sir. This is so wonderful. Will I still receive my knee pads and preparation H? No, that's not in the budget. The caboose of Max Kellerman is like a waterfall at this point. This poor dude, he has been as loyal as anyone at ESPN, and he constantly gets shuffled around. And now, his ass will be shuffling right out the door. Now, it's also being reported that ESPN is going to make some adjustments on Monday Night Football. Both Steve Young and Susie Colbert could be losing their jobs. No surprise there. Steve Young, he fits the demographic that ESPN doesn't want on their network. And even though Susie Colbert is a marginalized woman, she's just not marginalized enough. However, ESPN did have a surprise for us. I could not believe this when you guys were filling my DMs and email inbox with this headline this morning. Matter of fact, I was halfway through prepping another topic for this morning when I received this news from you guys. I scrapped that topic, started over when I saw this. According to the New York Post, Father Jalen Rose will be fired by ESPN. Father Jalen? No! Not Father Jalen! Who is going to give those impassioned sermons on mythical racism every Sunday morning at Woke United Methodist? Who's going to teach the youth about the dangers of Mount Rushmore? Who is going to put people to sleep during NBA pregame shows? If I remember correctly, Father Jalen Rose also hosted a show on ESPN radio with some dude named Jacoby. It's unknown at this time if Jacoby is fired too. My inside sources tell me Jacoby's job might be safe because no one knows who he is, including management at ESPN. It is not going to surprise me, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but it's not going to surprise me if Jalen Rose turns this firing into a case of mythical racism. ESPN just handed Pat McAfee $85 million. In order to do that, they had to cut the woke welfare from other shitfucks. Now, even though most of the people who lost their jobs are lacking in the melanin, it would not shock me if Jalen Rose claimed to be a victim of mythical racism. Same goes with Jay Williams, too, whose contract's about to expire. I'm sure J.J. Williams will portray himself as the victim, too. Casey, who in the hell is Jay Williams? Let's just say that he's another huge embarrassing failure. Speaking of huge embarrassing failures, why in the fuck was Amani Jones not included in these layoffs? If ESPN was looking to cut salaries, I cannot think of a more justified firing than the firing of Amani Jones. This dude's the definition of failure. This dude failed so epically. They had to remove him from ESPN Radio, one of the divisions at ESPN that's struggling the most. Amani Jones, this dude is essentially a YouTuber at this point. Now, obviously, Stephen A. Smith was not included in these layoffs, but that does not mean Stephen A. Smith has a future at ESPN. My personal stance hasn't changed. I still think Stephen A. Smith is laying the foundation for his exit, which is why I think ESPN's paying Pat McAfee so much money. I think they know Stephen A. is leaving. They needed a superstar to replace him. Just think of all these names that have been laid off at ESPN. Do you consider any of these people stars? And when I say stars, I'm talking about needle movers, people who draw ratings. Max Kellerman's not a star. Jalen Rose is not a star. Neither is Jay Williams, Keyshawn Johnson. They're not stars. ESPN has not produced a homegrown star in years. The network is nothing but polished garbage. It's robotic. A couple of weeks ago, Jay Williams admitted that no one can be themselves working at ESPN. Now, this dude is as woke as they come, and even he admits that he is handcuffed by the network. Earlier this morning, I saw some doofus analyst claim that ESPN is set up for success. Success? This network's been failing for years now. Successful companies, they don't have layoffs every 2 years. ESPN's laid off so many people, they are now having to lay off shit fucks because they are running out of normal people to fire. Give me your thoughts. Is ESPN in trouble? Now, I'm still holding on to my original prediction that I made 2 years ago. ESPN will cease to exist by 2030, at least in this current format. Are you surprised that Jalen Rose, Father Jalen Rose, pastor at Woke United Methodist, are you surprised that he was fired? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.